Hello, it's the Friday Q&A. Forgive me if I look a bit tired. I'm tired. It's early. I don't do early, but I was woken by, well, let's say, an itinerant scrap merchant. Yes, wanting to know if he could take away the aerial that was laying on our drive. I said, yes, please do. It fell off our roof a couple of weeks ago. Fortunately, we don't use it and haven't used it in years. Sky. But, yeah. I could have gone back to bed, but I thought I'd get this done instead. So, yes, plenty of questions again. Keep them coming. First question, Daniel Cordell. Do you think, this is following on from something I said, not last week, but the week before, because Daniel was catching up. Anyway, do you think Sega CD and 32X, this is, I said I would like to have seen a Mega Drive with Mega CD and 32X all in one as a console. He said, do you think that Mega Drive, Mega CD, 32X would have survived against a Saturn as a cheaper option if they had made it all in one? Probably not. The problem at the time was that the PS1 was on the way. I think if they had done it, if they'd made it all in one and made it cheap, it could have perhaps provided a stopgap. It was never going to be able to compete against the PS1 in the same way that it couldn't compete with the Saturn, even though it would have been a fairly capable machine, I think. But I think as a stopgap it might have served a purpose, because then they could have concentrated on something more dedicated to 3D, like the Dreamcast. They wouldn't have come out with the Dreamcast. Things would have been different. Not necessarily better, they wouldn't necessarily have survived. I don't think it would have been a commercial success, but it might have been enough. But I don't honestly think they could have actually produced it cheaply enough. Mega CDs weren't cheap, 32Xs weren't cheap. I mean, by this time the Mega Drive was cheap, but the add-ons themselves, even as an all-in-one, it takes time to develop the things and like shrink them down, make smaller chips, smaller circuit and blah blah, and make them more cheaply. That takes time, and time was, when all you're doing is producing a stopgap, time isn't a luxury that you have. So no, it probably wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have been a success even as a stopgap, I don't think. It's a shame. I would have liked to have seen it. Mega Drive, Mega CD, 32X, all in one. People say the Neptune, but the Neptune didn't have the 32X built in. Or was it that it didn't have the Mega CD? No, it didn't have the Mega CD built in, did it? It was Mega Drive and 30. Whatever. They didn't make this. No, I don't think it would have succeeded. Shame. Daniel also asks, as WWE can't give you the wrestling fix you like anymore, is there any other promotions on YouTube, their own websites or Sky TV that does it for you and gives you the complete feeling of watching your older WWF fix in the modern wrestling era? Or have you given up on wrestling altogether now? I've given up. It's not that I can't watch the things. I'm just, it's all been done. It's like watching repeats now. I don't know who any of the new wrestlers are. You know, I would say the older ones get older, but hell, Hulk Hogan was still wrestling while I was still watching. Age doesn't seem to be so much of a factor, or didn't. No, it just, I got bored. You know, I saw them repeating all the storylines over and over, and I lost interest. So no, I'm sure I could find stuff online and wherever else, but no, I just don't care anymore. Lost interest, moved on. Okay, I have been asked more or less the same question by several people, most notably Chris Bateman, Gregory York and AD74. Have I seen or heard about the new Sinclair Spectrum Vega, or Vega? Yes, I have. It is a little plug-and-play Sinclair Spectrum, about so big, styled like the old Spectrum but with a D-pad and just 4 keys. Supposed to have about 1,000 games in it, and they're looking to put about 14,000 in it. You can put your own ROMs on it via SD card. And it's being funded by Not Kickstarter, but that other British thing I've forgotten the name of. What do I think of that? Interesting. I like the idea of a plug and play that plays Spectrum games and makes them quickly and easily accessible. I think that is a good idea. I like that it's not just a plastic Spectrum styled case to plug into your Android phone or tablet or whatever. That thing that never quite got off the ground was a travesty. This, I mean, it's just 3 chips and a D-pad and buttons. I like it. I have 3 reservations regarding it. I mean, the rights to the hardware have taken a convoluted course because Sinclair sold them to Amstrad, who sold them to Sky, who have licensed them to this company, and on board with this company or be invested in is Clive Sinclair. My reservations are licensing of the games, the copyright. They appear to be taking more care and attention and whatnot with this than they did on that funny Android-y thing that was done a while ago. They appear to be putting in the effort to get the rights to use the games. I hope that proves to be the case. Controls. Spectrums didn't necessarily have joysticks built in. This has got a D-pad. Obviously it's going to work with games with joystick options. But what about the ones that don't? Some of them used very strange key layouts to control your player or whatever, and some of them used lots and lots of keys. What do? You've only got like 4 buttons. Is there some level of... Are you able to define your own keys to fit with the keys that are on there? And if you are... Some games had many keys. And text adventures, I guess they're out the window. So, yeah, compatibility. They say it will be compatible with everything. I struggle to believe that. I think some games had such weird controls, or just plain needed a full keyboard, and this doesn't have one. Maybe they've got a virtual keyboard like you'd have, you know, use the D-pad and scroll along and click A and click other letter and click... That would be difficult and annoying, you know, if you were doing a text adventure. Would you really want to do that? I certainly wouldn't. And I do actually like text adventures. But anyway, yes, the third issue I have, or concern, is the price. Now, the price has been... The only price I've seen mentioned is on the crowdfunding thing. If you donate or pledge or give £100, you get one of them. Okay, I mean, we've seen this with crowdfunding things. You get the thing if you pledge a certain amount or pay a certain amount. Fine, but what about when it comes to retail? What are they actually going to cost? Because if it's £100 or anywhere near £100, that's insane. That would just... I don't care what. It's a plug and play. It's a plug and play of an old system. I mean, I've got these Jack's Pacific things. You can get NES on a joystick. You can get all kinds of things on a plug and play, and they're cheap. They're dirt cheap. So even as a brand new item, to my mind, if this thing costs more than say £35, perhaps £40, it's crazy. If it is a sensible price, if they get the control scheme sorted out on whatever games, and if they get their licensing sorted out on the games, I think brilliant. Yeah, I'm interested. Do I want one? Irrelevant. I don't need one, but if they were cheap, I would probably buy one. Yeah, because they're interesting. Okay. David James Logue. Do you like the Resident Evil games, old or new? Do you have any favourites or memories of playing them? I have only ever played one Resident Evil game, and that was the very first one. At the time, I loved it because it was something new, and I'd never seen a video game like that. It was cinematic. It was like playing a horror film. I haven't played it since back in the day, and I think I would hate playing it because of the restrictive nature of the, you know, the views and the controls. It's all very rigid, it's not free moving or free flowing in any way, and it's you've got to use your brains. You've got to work out what you've got to do, and your potions for your health and blah blah blah. I would not want to play it now, but I have fond memories of it, and the most specific memory I have of it, and it's the one I think everyone has, is the dogs coming through the window. Your zombie dogs, you know, you're walking along and they just smash through the window, and it genuinely made me jump. And it was probably the first time a video game had ever made me jump. It was freaky. You don't expect to be scared or just startled by a video game, and it did that, and that made it special. But I haven't played any of the sequels. Whether or not I would enjoy them, I mean, they're more free movement and stuff, first person-y kind of things now, aren't they? I haven't played any of them. Would I enjoy them? Maybe. Don't know. I've watched me stepson playing one of the, I don't know which one. He was in some outdoor area with a gun and first person, and it was dark and atmospheric and stuff, and it looked quite good. And yeah, he was trading stuff with some character in a shop that had a very irritating voice. I remember that. Don't know what I would think of them now. Okay. Coffee. Great mug. Probably get some grief for that. So, Wingnut said, what are your top 5 favourite YouTube gaming channels and why, based on personality, creativity, niche or variety? I won't be offended if gaming history source isn't in the top 5. Okay, I have to... anyone who wonders, Gaming History Source is a very good channel, so though it isn't in my top 5, it is very good if you like comparisons. Games on different systems. That is a channel to check out. Okay then, top 5. I did have to think about this, but this is fairly definitive. I would probably consistently answer with these same channels. Certainly the top 4. There's room for a little bit of variation over time, but these are pretty consistent. Top favourite channel for me is Classic Game Room. Mark, Lord Carnage, Inicom Company, whatever you want to call it. I like the way he does his game reviews. He's just completely laid back. He puts a lot of effort in, and puts a lot of effort into looking like he doesn't put a lot of effort in, if you know what I mean. It's very relaxed, and there's a lot of humour in it, but you can tell a lot of time and effort goes into making those videos. I share his views and his tastes, so I know if I'm watching a video of his and he says this is a good game, chances are I would think it was a good game as well. More importantly, if he says this is a shit game, I would avoid that game. So I don't necessarily, you know, if he says great game, I don't necessarily think I'm going to buy that. But I do think if he says this is shit, I do avoid it. Or, you know, it's one I've played as well and I think, yeah, you're right, it is crap. But I mean, the thing with him, that he consistently makes me laugh. He does. It's when he's going on the whole rampage with the flamethrower. And what was the... Oh God, what's it called? Crisis. Is Crisis 4? Is it 4? Are they up to that now? Where he's got the elephant and he's just trashing everything with an elephant. I was in stitches, laughed my head off at that video, and is that kind of humour. I really like it. Number 2, Lazy Game Reviews. Clint freaking D. It's a humour thing again. I watch Clint's videos almost religiously, and it's not for the games because I don't give a crap about The Sims and stuff like that. Many of the games that he plays, they're not my kind of game, but it's for the way he does them, because he's incredibly entertaining. His sense of humour is fantastic. It is so dry, and I know some of his viewers don't actually get that he's being funny because he's so dry. They're, why are you so grumpy, and why do you, you know, they don't all get, obviously a lot do because he's got a very popular channel, but you know, I love his dry humour, the delivery, the Duke Nukem, you know, he just slips into Duke Nukem, so that sounds wrong, you know what I mean. Yeah, I just really enjoy the way he does things, and the whole LGR thrifts where he's going into like the Goodwills and whatnot with the spy camera glasses. I think they're brilliant. I love watching those. Yeah, I like what he does. I like how he does it. The game's an irrelevance. It's all about personality, and Clint is a real personality, one of a kind, on YouTube. That I don't know anyone else who does what he's doing the way he does it, and I don't think anyone could. Okay, number 3, Lawn Boys Post 1975. Dave does two kind of videos. He does the gameplay videos, and he does the where he talks to the camera. I like gameplay videos where people play the game and talk, and he does that. But more specifically, I like he talks to the camera on whatever topic he feels like it, and is consistently interesting and thought-provoking. That's the thing. I will sit and listen to what he's got to say, and he does. I will sit and ponder and think, what do I think about that? And I frequently do video responses to whatever he's been talking about. Yeah, it's an intelligence thing, intelligence and coherence, and the ability to express an idea in a way that holds your attention. Dave does that. It's not always an easy thing to do. There are lots of people talk to the camera, but I have I don't have a short attention span. I think it's just that I consider my time to be very precious, and if someone is going to have some of my time, they've got to be really good, and Dave is really good. Right, 4, Review Tech USA, Rich. Whenever I mention Rich, I always get one or two people saying, I don't know why you watch that. It's clickbait, it's sensationalism, he just does it for the views. Bollocks. Some people just don't understand. Yes, Rich can be sensationalist, and he will say things that he knows will get a reaction, and he baits the fanboys, no doubt about it, and sometimes he gets it wrong, but he always puts up his hand and says, I got that wrong. But what Rich does is present the gaming news in a way that is intelligent. He thinks about it, he has opinions, he's very opinionated, but I like that. And I'm a lazy sod. I can't be bothered to read the gaming magazines and the gaming websites and all of this and get all of that information myself. Some of it I'm not interested in, news about whatever Ubisoft are doing, but I still watch because I like listening to him rip them a new arsehole if they're being stupid. I like that kind of thing. He does it in a way that to my mind is intelligent. Regardless of whether you agree with whatever he's saying or not, or whether I agree with whatever he's saying or not. I don't always agree, but I frequently do. I like the way he does it. It is intelligent, it is witty, it is frequently funny. I've watched other channels that do a similar thing, but are very insulting to their viewers. Where if their audience disagrees with them, they call their audience morons and stuff like that. I see that happen and I find that objectionable and I don't like it. Rich doesn't do that. He might sometimes take the piss out of certain sectors of his audience, but he does it in a way that is amusing. Yeah, I like his style. And I mean, I've been watching him since since day one of his Review Tech USA channel. I don't think I really watched, but was aware of him when he was doing his RML audio. RML? RLM, one of them. Yeah, because he was commenting on my videos way back. Yes, and he... I remember giving him a shout out when I had my 500 subscriber video thingamajig, and I was like quite a way ahead of him in terms of viewers, and wow, that turned around. Someone at the door. Excuse me, I'll be back. Postal person, delivery. Brain not working, need more caffeine. Right, number 5. N. Jenkin. Nick Jenkin on Twitter, which is how I came to find him actually. Nick does gameplay videos and talks to the camera. And what he has is a particular style and way of speaking that is very interesting. I was going to say unique, but unique isn't the right word because it's very familiar. It's a certain kind of TV or radio presenter voice and delivery. It's a very BBC-ish thing. You would have to watch and listen, and you would know exactly what I mean. But it's very professional sounding. I like what he does. I like his sense of humour. Yeah, he's got my attention. I'm watching his stuff as he's putting it out at the moment because it's easy to watch. They're very relaxed videos, relaxed and possibly relaxing. Just easy. Sometimes you get into watching a video and they're like, oh, this is hard work, I can't be bothered. Nick's are always easy to watch. The right kind of length, the right kind of flow, the right level of amusement, and chilled Englishness. he's a chilled Englishman. Chilled, intelligent Englishman. Yeah, that's what Nick is. N. Jenkin. I like what he's doing. Right. Next question. 911 Gamer. What was the last time you lost your rag with a game, and what game was it? As in throwing the controller or just making your blood boil? Do you know what? I don't know. I do know the last time I threw my controller on the floor. I didn't actually throw it. I dropped it. And it's in a video. You heard it. It was that Barbie game on the Mega Drive where I dropped the controller in disgust. I've never thrown a controller in frustration ever. Not even as a kid. But I don't remember getting really aggravated with any in particular. I remember getting aggravated when games wouldn't load. But I think the last game I can think of where I just thought this is shit was a Spider-Man game on the PS2. I'm trying to see it. Yeah, there it is. Spider-Man PS2. Something about it. I think I was aggravated because I had high expectations and then it turned out to be badly designed. Was it I couldn't reach things, or I couldn't work out what I was meant to be doing or where I was meant to be going, and I was against a timer and I just kept dying. And that pissed me off massively. There will have been others, and I just can't think of them, but that one I do remember, because I bought it, and within like an hour of playing it, having paid full price for it, I just felt so ripped off. Yeah, that pissed me off. Chris James. Are there any retro games that you enjoyed the first time you played, but when you went back to, you found yourself thinking, hold on, this is shite? Yes, I know I've felt that way on several occasions, and that's the problem. I play so many and have played so many over the years recently that I forget what most of them were. But one that I can remember specifically is Gauntlet on the Acorn Electron. It is a Defender clone. It's not actually shit. It would be unfair to say that it's shit, but what it is not as good as I remembered it. And that, I guess my answer is more general in that I would say arcade clones from the 8-bit computer era. I mean, we had them on the Spectrum, and I played them on the Electron and many other systems. Clones that Space Invaders, Defender, Pac-Man, you name it, they ripped off every arcade. The computer, the develop. God, can you tell I haven't slept much or need more sleep? Yeah, there were rip-offs of arcade games on all of the home computers. The copyright law was different then. And so we, rather than playing official licensed versions of the arcade games, we would play rip-offs. And at the time we would think, yeah, this is really good. It's pretty close to what I played in the arcade. It's excellent. And to a degree they were, because the systems we had were limited and didn't have the power of the arcade systems. But of course now we find ourselves, having played on the more modern consoles or on MAME or something like that, we're fairly used to playing the arcade original, more or less. Okay, it's not always got the right control system or whatever, but you know, they're pretty good, pretty close to the original. We're used to all that. So go back to one of those 8-bit conversions now that you remember being brilliant, and Gauntlet is the one that comes to my mind. Play them now and you're like, hold on a bit, this ain't that this ain't that good after all, is it? Yeah, there are some that I want to go back to and have another go at. There's another Defender clone on the BBC Micro that I want to have a go at, and I'm trying to remember. I can't quite remember what the name is. You see, there are two, and one was done by Acorn Soft and one was done by Alligator, and I want to have a go at the Alligator one because I've met the guy who programmed it. Was it Meteoroid or something? I can't remember. Forgotten. But anyway, yeah, that. Are there any games from any era of gaming that you consider to be particularly overrated? I realise this is subjective because it can be quite hard to define whether or not something is highly Are there any games from any era of gaming? Overrated? Yeah. But I'm going to get flamed to hell for this. Mario. I suppose the thing is, it's not fair for me to say Mario because it was groundbreaking in its day. And I know they're well designed. They moved gaming from your single screen onto your multi-screens and big game worlds, and with decent production values, so they weren't full of bugs and didn't lock up or slow down or blah blah blah. And in that sense, and in very, very clever level design and variety, it's like you play a platform game on an 8-bit computer like the Electron, and it's a clunky, repetitive, generally broken affair and frustrating and frequently brutally hard, where Mario brought a kind of smoothness, fairness, imagination and everything to platform gaming, and for that they are fantastic and groundbreaking, but I just don't enjoy them. It's down to a couple of things. I don't like the visual style, but it's not even that. I don't like the character. I think he looks like... I want to punch him on his big fat nose. I find the character incredibly annoying, but it's not even that. It's the pace. I don't like the pace. So it's like, I know they're popular, and they're popular for a very good reason. They're very good games, but because I don't enjoy them, I hear all the raving about how fantastic they are, knowing how fantastic they are for all the reasons I just said, and thinking, but I don't like it, and I get sick of hearing about it. That is me. There's nothing wrong with the game, it's just personal preference there. To me it's like Mario, 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 and I'm like, shut up, I just don't care. Don't like it. Don't want to play it. unless it's Mario Kart, in which case I absolutely love it. Weird one that, because I mean there've been many other karting games that are based on Mario Kart. It's like, I don't like Mario, the character, he annoys the crap out of me. But because it was the first of its kind, even though there are other karting games that do really, really well, and are well put together and thought out and planned and executed and blah, I won't play any of the other ones, because to me they're just a knockoff of Mario Kart, and I want to play the original. That's just the way I think. Are there any particularly obscure games that you believe have been criminally neglected and more people should know about? Again, this is subjective. Yeah, I had a ponder about this, and there are probably lots. The one that came to my mind, Exile, on the Acorn Electron and BBC Micro. It later came out on the Amiga, but I actually, I don't care about the Amiga versions. Shock horror, being an Amiga fan and everything, I played it, but the thing with Exile, on an 8-bit, it's probably more impressive on the Electron than on the Beeb, because the Electron was more limited, and it is the one I played it on. It is the depth of gameplay, and the really impressive physics, and the size of the game world. How they crammed that into an Electron, I do not know. Massively complex, massively impressive, so many things that make you go, wow. Being the kind of gamer that I am these days, it's also the kind of game that I won't play these days, because you really got to learn it. You've got a lot of controls. You have to have a card with all of the controls, like sitting on top of your keyboard, so you can remind yourself, what button do I need in this particular circumstance, because there are so many controls. It is a complex game. But back in the day, I was in my 20s, early 20s, when I was playing that. Possibly even a little bit younger, 19-ish. Yeah, when I had a lot of time to play games, I put in many hours, days, weeks into that game, and it is one that, yeah, it does get recognition, but I think only people of a certain age who were into Acorn gaming really will be particularly familiar with it and know that it's not just good, it's fantastic. It's the second, to my mind, second best game on the Acorn systems from back then. I mean, there will be people who will say Citadel or Repton, but meh. Exile, bloody brilliant. Why do I say second? Well, elite, innit? Yeah. But that one, yeah, I'll stop because brain not working and I'll start rambling again. Scribbled Sam Animation. Why do you like Spider-Man, and if so, what are some of your favourite Spider-Man games and or games in which Spider-Man has appeared? I like Spider-Man because, this is going to sound weird, I started reading his comics when I was about 8, I would say. They were like British Marvel, so they were reprints of the American ones. Largely, though I did get some of the American ones as well. And his character just now I first encountered Spider-Man on the 70s, or is it even earlier, TV, the short cartoon, badly animated, where they'd only drawn the webbing on the mask and not the rest of the body. Really crap. But I that's where I first encountered him, and then I started buying the comics when I was about 8. The thing is, this is where it sounds bizarre. He, for me, was a role model. Yeah. He was my male role model, because I didn't have a good role model in the real world, male role model. Most people, their male role model is their dad. Well, my dad was a bastard and not a good role model. So I decided, yeah, well, I can't, you know, I'm not learning anything from this bastard. So Spider-Man was very moral. He had values. and they mattered to him. They were important, you know, doing the right thing and stuff. And he was very normal. You know, he had job problems, money problems, girlfriend problems. It was all very stressful, and it got to him. And I sort of related to that because I was finding life difficult. And here's this superhero finding life difficult. So yeah, I related to him, and here I am today with my superpowers, saving the... Well, no, didn't quite manage that bit. But yeah, I think I learned values from him because I certainly wasn't learning them from my dad. Favourite Spider-Man games? Well, the first Spider-Man game I ever played that I still love is Spider-Man on the Atari 2600. I love that game. It's brilliant. It's really simplistic. I mean, just use your webbing, climb up the skyscraper, avoid the guys in the windows, get past the Green Goblin and defuse the bomb. Simplistic, repetitive, love it. Other ones, there's on the Mega Drive, Maximum Carnage. I haven't actually played it an awful lot, but I do like the graphical style, and I like that it's on a red cartridge. And Carnage himself, I haven't actually encountered him in the game, but it was just... I have the Maximum Carnage crossover series on the Spider-Man comics. There were several different Spider-Man titles. There was like Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, and maybe another one I don't remember. I think there were 4. And this story was spread across all of those titles, and it was actually really difficult to get all of them. If you missed one, you were buggered. And I've got the whole set, and that took some doing. I don't know if they're worth something now, probably not, but I've got them. I loved the story, and I mean, I know you can get the Maximum Carnage saga in a you know, like they put them all together into a book, so it's like graphic novel. But I got the comics. Yeah, so when I found the game, I was like, gotta have that. Is it a particularly good game? Don't know, don't care. I like it. Red cartridge, Carnage, blah. But the only other Spider-Man game that I've really thought, wow, this is brilliant. I've played quite a few actually, and I'm sure there are others that are particularly good, but there's one that comes to mind, and I can't remember the exact title, but it's on the Dreamcast. There's a Spider-Man game on the Dreamcast that is really good. It controls well, and it looks good. Can't remember what it's called, but it impressed me. I've got a video of it, so use the search feature. There's something. There's a search feature on YouTube. So many people saying, have you played blah? Use the bloody search. Yes. Question 2. Do you find it a bit cliche when Mark from Classic Game Room would, for example, stick a Mega Drive game into a SNES? Cliche? It's kind of predictable, but I don't care. It amuses me. I'm easily amused. You know, yeah, I know he does it a lot, and it reaches a point where you're like, well, you know he's going to do it. Meh. It's fun. 3. What are your opinions on Hatsune Miku? Hey, I pronounced it. No, almost right. Hatsune Miku. If you're not familiar, she is a Vocaloid, which is basically a voice synthesizer program for your PC that you type in some lyrics, alter her voice and make her sing. People have made Hatsune Miku do cool versions of many songs. I'm oblivious to this. I did click the link that you provided and watched the video. Yeah, it's clever technology, and I think there is a time when I would have messed around with that kind of thing and done stuff, but these days, God, I'm just so old and drown you buggers. I just don't care. Yeah, it's clever, it's impressive technology. It doesn't do anything for me. I think where music is concerned, I'm very, very, I won't say tunnel vision because my taste in music is quite broad, but yeah, it's clever, I just don't care. Which is not to be dismissive, but is dismissive. Whatever, yeah, you know. 4. What is your favourite radio station? Mine's Absolute Radio. I mostly listen to Absolute Radio 90s. Do you know what? I don't listen to the radio, ever. Well, no. The only time I listen to the radio is if I'm in the car, in my wife's car, and she puts the radio on. And then it will invariably be Radio 2. So, and they do at least play music from an era that I'm familiar with on BBC Radio 2. Yeah. I guess I wouldn't. I don't put the radio on myself. We don't have a we do have a radio in the house. It's sitting somewhere collecting dust. Never listen to it myself. If I want to listen to music, I've got a big collection of music, and I can listen to exactly what I want when I want. The radio largely doesn't play what I'm interested in. Okay, Andrew Advent, you've talked about your vision getting poorer. What are your thoughts on getting laser vision correction? Never, never, ever, ever, no. This pair of glasses, it took a lot of messing about to get a pair of a prescription, firstly the prescription and then the glasses, because they just kept cocking it up. They got it so wrong so many times, had to be tested several times, had to have them remade. I mean, I ended up changing and going to a different opticians because they just couldn't get it right. And I figure, if they can't even get my glasses right, I mean, if they can get the prescription so badly wrong that it just looks awful, there's no way I would let them laser my eyes. You know, these, they get it wrong, I can just give them back and say, that's wrong, do it again. But lasers on the eyes, hell no. Absolutely not. Gary Hart. Have you considered getting a Gotek floppy emulator for your Amiga 500? If you've not got one already, especially given your experiences with corrupt floppy disks. Yes, if I had the money I would get one, but money is tight. They do look impressive. The whole concept I think is good. What I actually do for Amiga stuff is, well, either I play it on the Amiga CD 32, because you can like get big massive compilations and it will play burnt discs, and the CDs are a lot more reliable than the floppies. And my everlasting gratitude to the great British gamer who gave me the CD 32, because it's made Amiga gaming so easy for me. The other thing that I do is I download ADF files off of the interwebs. I put them onto a CD which I can then stick into my Amiga 1200 tower, and then on there convert them back and copy them back onto floppy disks, which it works, and then I install them from the floppy disk onto the hard drive of the computer very often. Sometimes actually, not that often, but yeah, and sooner or later I'll look into, was it WHD load thing, and try that kind of thing out. But yes, I do like the idea of these Gotek floppy emulator things. I think they're clever. One of these days I'll get one. There are lots of storage solutions for lots of gaming systems, like flash cartridges and things that use SD cards and stuff like that. There are a lot of them about, and they're all very clever, and I would like to have one of those for every system where they use such a thing. I mean, I've got one on my B, but I've got one that'll go on my VIC-20, Commodore 64 C16. I've got one on my Atari 8-bit. Others, and they're good and handy, and there are many others available, and one of these days, at such time as I have the money, I will get more of those sort of things, because it opens up lots of possibilities and like easy, cheap gaming. which means more videos, which is always a good thing. But at the moment, you know, EverDrive, that's another one, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, they make them for many systems, and I'd like to get all of them. And yeah, that Gotek floppy emulator comes into that kind of category. Good idea, good piece of kit, need the money. Tie flip. During your younger years, nostalgia kicking in, what sort of pubs, clubs did you frequent as a young lad, 18 plus? Music genres you were into as a young'un, and what sort of clientele did you encounter? Rough? Any fun drunken incidents? Nitty gritty, please. Thanks. Okay. When I were a lad, bring on the Hovis music. Pubs. I used to drink in a pub in Stony Stratford called the Volts Bar. And this place is famous. Sort of. Have you ever heard of the phrase a cock and bull story? Probably. If you think, yeah, that's bullshit. That's a right cock and bull story, is how the phrase goes. That comes from Stony Stratford. On the high street there are two hotels. There is the Cock down the road, further towards Old Stratford, and then a little bit up, just bang opposite the church, is the Bull. I've stayed in the Cock many times. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? Lovely hotel. Never stayed in the Bull. Right next to the Bull, just the other, there's like an archway with a road going through to the car park, is a small bar called the Volts Bar. It used to be a coach house. It would be like people going from London to up north would stop in that coach house, and they'd go into the Cock, or rather they'd go into the Bull and tell of how fast they got from here to there and blah blah blah, and then that story would, they'd walk down the road to the Cock Hotel and retell the story, and it would be wildly exaggerated how fast they got from here to there and blah blah blah, hence the Cock and Bull story. Now that coach house, as it was then, is now the Volts Bar, and I used to drink there. It was, and still is, it's a really cool place. It's small. It was smaller then. It's been extended, but it was tiny, really tiny and really quaint. And the kind of people who drank there were, you had everyone. Well, no, you didn't. You had old men, you had businessmen, but not your arrogant bastard types. It wasn't full of yuppies and it wasn't full of chavs. It was intelligent or original, kind of interesting people. And goths. It was full of goths, and I was into your goth scene. So I drank there. And on Sunday afternoons they would have like open mic folk music. You just, if you played an instrument, you went in, everyone else had their instrument, and you just jam. And I went there many Sundays, you know, having a drink, and it was like real ale, loads of really fancy, weird, freaky beers. I remember this drink they had called Headbanger. I don't know what it was, but 1 pint, and I was plastered. Yeah, so I'd go there then for like the folk music on the Sunday, but what night was it? Sunday night. Goth night. Well, no, band night. Local bands. It was invariably goth or something like that. And there were a couple of bands that used to play there a lot. There was a band called The Final Solution, which sounds like something Nazi, but it isn't. They just hadn't thought about that when they came up with the name of the band. They sounded a bit like The Cure. Just a pub rock band, but good. And another band called Lex Wilkinson's Death Grip. Great name. They were kind of a Sisters of Mercy knockoff, but fantastic. The singer, he had charisma, he was great, and they had a sense of humour. Brilliant, loved it. And there was another band who played there called Claire, who, it wasn't a woman, it was all largely blokes. They got played on the John Peel show twice. Insane, percussive, weird, freaky music, loved it. Yeah, I used to go there. I'd Sunday night go in there, get absolutely hammered, watch the band, get pissed, stagger out, fall into the graveyard across the road more often than not. Monday mornings at work were always a nightmare because I always had a terrible hangover. I sort of moved on from there. Actually, well, I continued drinking there, but I also started going to this place called the Counterpoint that was in Bletchley. It was a good few miles away from where I lived. But they had bands there as well. Sort of bigger bands. It was a bigger place. It was a youth club. Had a bar, you could snack bar, stuff like that. Goths, not so much goths, there were a lot of what we called crusties. I don't know what you would call them now. Yeah, it was the dreadlocks and the unwashed look. There was a lot of that. Some bigger bands, Chumbawamba, they played there. Magic Mushroom Band, Click Click. Local bands as well. It was great. It was brilliant. Though, I mean, there was one incident there towards the end of the time that I went there, and it all fell apart because of the drugs. It started attracting a clientele that they weren't there for the music. And well, there was an incident. I was sitting watching the band, fairly sozzled, but minding my own business. You know, I'd had a few drinks and I was enjoying the music, and there were other people sitting at the table I was sitting at. It was like, you didn't care. There was no... You sat wherever you liked, and if there were other people there as well, it was fine. And so I'm sitting here, there's a guy sitting there, and there's a guy sitting there, and I'm watching the band, and all of a sudden the guy sitting here stands up, picks up his chair and throws it at the guy on the other side of me. Unfortunately, the chair hit me on the head. I fell to the floor thinking, what the bloody hell? And then noticed a sudden growing pool of blood on the floor in front of my face. And I put my hand on my head, and blood just spraying everywhere. And I freaked. And I rushed through to the front foyer area looking for a phone, and bumped into my friend there who phoned an ambulance as I sat there just gushing blood, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. Because your scalp, I mean, it wasn't... There was a cut about that long and maybe a couple of millimetres deep. But your scalp bleeds like a bitch. And, yeah, by the time the ambulance got there, it had stopped bleeding, thank God. They got, the manager there went and got the first aid kit and just put pressure on it with I don't know what I put on it, rolled up bandage, I think. Yeah, ambulance came, it stopped bleeding, but my face was covered in blood, my t-shirt was covered in blood, I was just soaked in blood. And I mean, I didn't know what I looked like, except that people kept walking past and seeing that they'd look at me, and the look on their face was shock and horror, and it was like, oh my God. Yeah, and that you know, they took me off to the hospital and stitched me up and sent me home. And I had a thumping headache for several days after that. Wasn't a good, that put me off it, you know, the place went to hell after that. It was a real shame. It started out with a real community spirit. Everyone was there having a good time, having fun, but then these other people, and it was all about drugs. It all went to hell, and it shut down in the end, or was shut down. You know, the police kept arriving, and there was an atmosphere, and it went to hell. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Guitar Hero, 1885. Would you ever consider PC gaming instead of consoles? And what are the pros and cons to PC over consoles, or consoles over PC, in your opinion, related to gaming and other functions? And it then goes on a big swathe of text on how he likes PCs because he makes his own and is able to make them far more cheaply, and more powerfully, and can have exactly what parts he wants with whatever capability, and a lot of detail that I'm not going to read because I will be here quite a while reading it. The thing is, that big swathe of text explaining why it's a good thing and suits you is why I don't favour PC gaming over consoles, because you've got a lot of detail there, and that's exactly what I don't want. I don't want to build my own. I understand that a PC, you can make a very powerful gaming PC for a reasonable price. You can mix and match the parts and find the most powerful part for the best price, and so on and so on. You need to know what you're doing, which I don't. And that's the thing. It's complex. It's not... I want to go into a shop, hand them my money, walk out, hey presto, I can play games on this. The PC might be more powerful, I don't care. The PC might work out cheaper, I don't know. But I don't care. It's all about convenience for me. I don't care. I built this Amiga. I put all the bits together on it, but Amiga and Amigas were at that time my life. That was what I was all about. It was Amiga gaming and Amiga hardware, and I knew all of the ins and outs and what would work with what and stuff because I'd done me research. For me now, gaming, I don't want to do research. I don't want to have to find out what might clash with what and what might have incompatibilities or what will be a bottleneck and where can I get this and what operating system do I need and blah. I don't want all that. I want to hand over me money and have a self-contained, pre-configured, already work straight out of the box gaming system. I don't care if it's the most powerful or not. I don't care if it's the cheapest or most expensive or not. I want it to be easy, because all I want to do is play games on it, and that's it. To me, a PC is a tool. It might happen to be able to play games, and it might do it quite well, and some might do it very well, but I don't care. PCs, to me, it's for going on the internet and editing me videos and photos and music, and I don't want to play games on it. Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. I know what it is to have the time and the interest to develop your own PC, put it together and make something that's fantastic. Because I did it with my Amiga, I understand how that works. I used to have the time for that. I don't anymore. Now, I just want to play. And sod all the details. Don't care about the details. Don't have time for it. That is my thinking on that. B. Roland 1. Ben Browland. Music related question. What are your thoughts on music going from physical format, CDs and vinyl, to all digital? Personally, I love shopping for music in a brick and mortar store and owning a large collection of physical albums. I don't get the same satisfaction from a bunch of files on my PC. Yeah, I really would always rather have a physical format for my music. I've got CD basically. I would rather have CD. I've got a lot of vinyl. I find it inconvenient. It's harder to... Here's the thing. When I buy music now, alright, I do miss being able to walk into a shop and browse. But I buy music from Amazon. I buy CDs from Amazon, and invariably what I'll do is I'll go there, I buy the box sets quite often, and after you've given them your money, you wait a couple of days and it arrives through your letterbox. But you don't have to be that patient, because with many of the albums you buy from them, as soon as you've given them your money, you can download the MP3s. They've pre-ripped them. So that's great. Here's the money, here's the music. And that's the funny thing. Though I want that physical... I want the disc to put on my shelf and look at and think, yeah, look at all these, they're great. I play them as MP3s. I play them on my phone. I mean, I've got them on my computer. I don't play the CDs. I want them. I want the disc. But I play them on my phone, you know, headphones and everything. got about 20 gigabytes of music on my phone. So yeah, when it comes to playing them, I don't play the physical media, but I want it. I've got, you know, it's. Does that make sense? I don't feel like I own it if I don't have the disc, even though I don't play the disc. I can download music off of Tinterwebs for free, and you know, I've got a few tunes that I didn't pay for, but I don't feel like I own them. And it's not because I didn't actually give them the money, it's because I don't have the disc. It doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel proper. It's like, it feels like I'm just borrowing it. I can listen to it, I can get the enjoyment from it, but I don't get the satisfaction. It's odd. Yeah, give me MP3s, but give me a physical format thing with it as well. Preferably CD, because like ripping vinyl is hard work. Okay, Daniel Cordell. What term do you prefer for the systems that are in the store? Not talking about them coming out, but they are here already. Next gen or current gen? I get where you're going with this. It's like people, including me, are still calling the X-Bone and the PS4 next gen. It's a tricky one because the PS3 and Xbox 360 are still current, as in they're still on sale, they're still in the shops. So what do you call the PS4 and Xbox and Wii U, if you like? Technically, yes, they're not next gen because they're here. They're available, they're not just around the corner. I do call them next gen just because I'm in the habit of calling them that. Technically, I know it's not accurate, is it? I don't know, really. I ain't got a clue what would be the ideal thing to call them. We have reached that tricky point where the name doesn't really seem appropriate, and we just, for me, it's just habit now. I don't know. Some term or expression will come up sooner or later. Well, no, it probably won't. People will just stop calling them next gen and start calling the PS3 last generation. Something like that. I mean, we go through this every time there's a new generation of hardware, so I don't think anyone ever came up with a term that is appropriate. It's just going through that transitional phase where it's a little bit irksome. Zabius. Considering that you play racing games better with a gamepad than with a wheel, this is coming from the answer I gave last week, do I use a wheel? Do you think real cars should come equipped with gamepads? This is a serious question. No, I understand, and it seems like a reasonable question. And it's actually something I talked about in a video quite a few years ago. Because a car manufacturer was like experimenting with a control system where you steered the car with a joystick. Do I think they should come equipped so you control your car with a joypad? No, 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 no. And for a very easy or simple, obvious reason. Okay. On a real car, as opposed to on a gaming wheel, you turn your car and you can go from lock to lock by, you turn it about that much, like a Formula 1 car, and that's fine on a gaming system. On a real car, lock to lock is, you know, you several turns of the wheel. So to turn really hard left, you've got to turn it a lot. There's a lot of movement, and you need that. Because imagine if you're doing 70 mile an hour down a motorway, you could have well, put it like that. Lot of movement, lot of travel in the wheel to go lock to lock. You sneeze, you're suddenly at full lock. You twitch, you're suddenly at full lock. You don't want to be doing 70 down the motorway and have a sudden muscle spasm and be on full lock. Or you don't want to be doing that at 30 mile an hour. Or even 10 mile an hour. But imagine you're doing 70 and you're suddenly at full lock because you twitched. You could have more travel in your joystick, but at the end of the day, you want to you need a lot of travel in your controller, your wheel in a car. Otherwise it's just an accident waiting to happen. So no, absolutely not. Cars controlled with gamepads would be lethal, and banned very quickly. Which, I mean, before I drove a car, I used to think, wow, you know, I can control game cars really well with a D-pad. I thought real cars should have a D-pad, but of course I'd never thought about the reality of it, and the reality is, no, that would be terrible. It was Men in Black, wasn't it, where he was driving that car on the top of the tunnel, and when they first got in, he was like, where's the wheel? And it was a PlayStation pad, wasn't it? And I think that's probably where I started thinking, yeah, that would be cool, I'd love a car like that. But no, it's not. I don't think it's doable. Or they'd need some very, very, very clever technology that would prevent the whole lock in one muscle twitch. It's probably doable with technology, but you'd need a buffer between you and the car where the computer decided, is that what he means? And I guess they do it on jet fighters, don't they? And maybe jumbo airliners, fly-by-wire, where there is a layer of software between you and the control surfaces stuff. I would like to be in control of my car rather than having that layer of technology. Though, I mean, modern Ferraris and the like, they're with all your driver aids, your traction control and your stability control and your anti-lock this and your blah blah that and all sorts of... Yeah, there is a growing layer of technology between the driver and the car these days, so maybe they could do it with the steering. I'll stick with my little Fiat. And that is the final question. So I'll start editing now before I fall asleep. I'm so tired. Do you know that feeling you get when you've not had a lot of sleep and you're just like wading through treacle? Yeah, coming up, there are interesting things coming up. There's going to be a system review of a thing and other things that I'm going to tell you about, and good stuff and stuff. So keep watching. This will be an interesting week. I'm going to go now. Thank you for watching.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking the thumbs up button. I upload videos daily, so go ahead and hit subscribe if you'd like to see more. To all those who've already subscribed, I'd just like to say a great big thank you.